Hi, everybody. I am still in the hospital, so I won't be there for a bit. But I don't want us to stop. I don't want you to have downtime. I want you to continue to learn and to continue to work. And we are going to take the next element of art and study it, and that would be space. Space is a big part of creating art, and it's a very important lesson for you to learn. Um, we're going to focus first on positive and negative space. In a nutshell, positive space is where something is or the subject of your art, and negative space is where nothing is, like the background of your art. Things that are not important. Background is important, but uh, what you're not focused on. We have a video to watch. It's very informative, and so let's start with that, and then it explains positive and negative space, and then we'll talk about it some more.
Here's why you should download Simply Draw if you want to take your art to the next level. It's the perfect balance between structure.
Space and shape, two of the elements of design, work together to form a finished work of art. There are two kinds of space, positive and negative. Positive and negative space play an important role in determining the overall composition in a work of art. By understanding positive and negative space and applying your knowledge, you can become more successful in designing your compositions. So what is positive and negative space? Well, the positive space is best described as the areas in a work of art that are the subjects or the areas of interest, the yellow flower here. The negative space then is the area around the subjects or areas of interest. In other words, the background, as seen here with the black. It is no mystery that the shapes of positive spaces are determined by the shapes of the main subjects of the work. However, negative spaces have shapes as well. If one removes the subjects from a work of art, the negative spaces are left with a blank and the shapes of the parts removed. Therefore, the shapes of the negative spaces are determined by the shapes of the positive spaces. One of the oldest examples is the one given here. Do you see faces or do you see a vase? If you look long enough, though, you begin to see both. But in regards to positive and negative space, if you are seeing a vase, then you are seeing the white area as the positive space. The black area becomes the negative space or the background. If you are seeing the faces, then you are seeing the black areas of the positive space and the white area then as a negative space, the leftover area. Let's take a look at some examples of artists that have concentrated on the emphasis of positive and negative space. M.C. Escher is most famous for his so-called impossible constructions. He creates an optical illusion within his work and creating a metamorphosis between subjects. In this example, he begins at the top with the black birds representing the positive space and the white area, the negative space. As we move down, the white fish become the positive space and the black area becomes the negative space. Very similar to Escher's optical illusion, other artists have used this so-called trick to create a relationship between figure and ground, thus creating a story and or a design element, as in the example shown here. Notice that both positive and the negative space are creating an actual design or image. Lastly, when it comes to art, take time to become more aware of the negative shapes so you can capture the relationship between the objects with greater accuracy. See the negative areas as additional shapes, not as wasted white space on your drawing paper. This will help with the accuracy of your drawing. As students, it is tempting to just look at the objects themselves without thinking about the space around them.
As you could tell, negative space could be very beneficial when you're creating your art.
This lesson is
a lot of
about
artists
positive.
have gone the extra step to focus on creating unique perspectives and illusions with negative space. Negative space can help you in a lot of different ways, but one way is that it reinforces your positive space. So your negative space is defined by your positive space. But if you will focus on getting your negative space correct, your positive space would be more correct. And that's going to be the focus of our assignments this week, a couple of our assignments. Now, one thing that space can do is create emotion. And like if you have a lot of negative space, so a lot of empty area, you can create a feeling of loneliness and isolation. If you have a lot of busy stuff going along, a lot of things in your background, then you can create a feeling of being busy and stressed and hurried. Now, in this, what I'm drawing here, I'm drawing just a little tiny boat in an ocean, and he looks pretty lonely just out there, just a little tiny boat floating in the ocean. And so your positive space in this example would be your boat. And you could probably call the ocean some positive space, but your negative space would be, the sky. But your main focus here is this little tiny lonely boat in the ocean. And that creates, he's out there by himself, but you could change that really easily by taking over and drawing a fierce wave that's about to capsize the little boat. And then your wave becomes the positive space. And by filling up that negative space, you created more energy, you created a whole different feel of emotion that is in this. Sorry, I hit the erase button and it was too big, but it's okay. You can get the point of what we're doing here. Space is, we'll learn about perspective, we'll learn about how to create distance, but this week we're going to focus on just the positive and negative space. So in this picture here, your negative space would still be your sky, and your boat and your wave would become positive space. So now we're going to look at some of the information that I put in Google Classroom. Everything that we're going to talk about today, you can go back and review as you need to. And I created some examples that we're going to talk about. This first one, of course, is a shark. So the shark is in the black positive space, and the white area would be your negative space. And if you'll see, inside the shark's mouth was a tooth, a foot, a leg. So that's pretty cool. A lot of artists use this to create cool images and a really cool piece of art. This next one is a kiss, and you can see that the people, the lips would be your negative space, and your flower would be your positive space. Or if you're focusing on the people, those could be your positive. This next is really just a real cool play. You see these columns, but if you look in between the columns, you might have to kind of squint your eyes, you'll see there are people there. And so the artist here used the negative space to create an interesting illusion of people standing around those columns. This is just a little handout. I don't think we made copies of it, but it just kind of goes through some of the things we're going to learn. Positive is where something is, the object making up positive space, and the space around it, in between it, that's your negative space. We're going to study perspective, vanishing lines, horizon lines, and that will help you create your landscapes so that it all makes sense. This vanishing points, the Renaissance artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo, they were the first to come up with this accurate perspective. You can look at Mona Lisa and see some perspectives there. So they're real interesting to study along with this. The next thing, it shows the tree, and it shows several different ways to create space. Overlapping, that's where you would put one thing in front of the other. You'll see that the tree is in front of everything else. It's in front of the grass, it's in front of the mountains, and you layer things to create depth. You also raise and make things smaller. So, like if you added more trees to this picture, you wouldn't want to put them even with the main tree. You would want to put them on the mountains in behind and make them smaller. This is where you, another way, and you can look at Mona Lisa and see that, is that the further things go away, they're more blurry, they're not as sharp and detailed, and the color is lighter. So typically, the further away something gets, the lighter it gets. The things that are more close up are things that have more detail and have brighter, stronger colors. So there's a lot to learn about space. Now we're going to go into our assignments and look at some other things. All of this I told you is in Google Classroom, and I just want to remind you to take pictures and upload your assignments, because you'll have to do that so that I can grade them. This next thing we're going to look at is a PowerPoint that just kind of shows some more information about positive and negative space. Positive space is the space occupied by the actual object in the image. Negative space is the areas around and behind the positive spaces. The shape of the negative spaces are determined by the shape of the positive space. And I know that sounds confusing, but when we look at a picture here in just a minute, that'll make more sense to you. We're going to look at a sketch of a ram and understand positive and negative space a little better. If you'll see here, you have a ram that's sketched in, and he's standing on some ground, and so all around him you have negative space. So if you cut the lamb out, or the ram out, so if you cut the ram out, you're just going to leave the negative space around him. So now I want you to look at that negative space, and you'll see that it has its own shape. So if you look just at the negative space that's left, you'll see different shapes. And what I want you to think about is, if you drew the negative space and not the ram, your ram would just appear because you have drawn around it. So I want your assignment this week is going to be to do that. You're going to look at the shapes that the negative space makes, and you're going to focus on creating those shapes, and your end result will be that you create a sketch of, you're actually going to do a giraffe, but you can see that this would help you create a more defined shape, rather than just trying to draw the outline. You know how sometimes we can't see that the leg is not right, something's too big, you don't have your proportions right. Well, if you would focus on your negative space, it would help you create a more accurate representation of what you're drawing. So just take a minute here and look at the shapes around the ram and what we're left with, and how that, if you drew just those and not drew the lamb, how you would improve your drawing. It's important to pay attention to positive and negative space to make strong compositions. It just makes your drawing better. Positive space is typically what your subject is. So in this one, even though the man is in black and the motorcycle's in black, he still would be the positive space, and the white would be the negative. For every positive shape, there is a negative space that surrounds it. This is important to the overall success of your composition. And composition means the whole, how you put what you put in your picture, how you balance it. what it looks like as a whole. So if you look here, there's some interesting shapes. There's a big triangle between the pelican's or flamingo's legs, and then you've got some big rectangle areas. So if you sat down and focused and drew those negative shapes and paid attention to how they fell out and where they were positioned, you would create your flamingos. And if you use that together, your shapes and your forms would be more accurate and better. This is just a really cool use of negative space. So just take a minute again here and look at how those negative spaces work together with the positive space. And so if you drew your negatives, your positive would just come forward, and then you could go in and put details, in your positive space. Always pay attention to the small areas. See, underneath the hand there is negative space there, so you need to be sure that you address that. They just cut out the picture of the woman, and so now you're left with that negative space, and you have to kind of think of what you want to do with it. And do you want to fill it up? Do you want to leave it empty? It's just a good way to look at it. Now, this is a cool thing where they use negative space to create letters. That's a fun project to do. So we might play around with some letters later. So now we're back in Google Classroom, and we are going to look at, I think it just flipped us off. So we're going to go back into the slideshow and look more at those letters. So when they did these letters, the E is completely negative space, but our eye is still able to see what it is. So maybe this is something that we might want to do, and do our names in positive and negative letters like that. I think that might be a fun project. But that is not one of your assignments this week. But just kind of think about how you could do your name that way, and how your eye would just automatically see that. This is a cool positive and negative image. You've got a real shape in the middle, but you can see that it's a baby and a mother and a dad. And then the next one, they really use that negative space to create an image. So my eye goes to the negative space first in this one because it's so bright. It pulls my eye there, and you can see there's a dog, but around the dog there's a baby and a mother. Around the bunny there's two people, and around the cat there's two people. So see how that they created two completely different images by using positive and negative spaces in creative ways. I love this. This shows a city in the background with a forest, and if you'll look, the trees are your positive space at the bottom, but as they go up, if you go up higher and get into the city, the trees turn into negative space for the city. Just kind of look at that again. Your trees are positive, but they go up and they become the background of the high-rise buildings in the city. So that is just a super cool way to show positive and negative space. We had this example already, but you can just see how these columns, when they're put together, really create the image of a woman standing, and it's just a real smart use of positive and negative space. Again, here at the bottom we have shoes, white tennis shoes, so those are positive, and your green is negative. But as you go up into the center picture, your green turns into the positive area, and the white becomes the negative. That's kind of a cool little picture, I think. A lot of companies use positive and negative space to create interesting logos or interesting representations. So this is Amnesty International, and you can see it's a helping hand with hands in between the fingers in the negative space area. Then we have a wolf or a dog with the mouth is a cat. I want you guys to look up the FedEx logo too when this is over and see and be able to tell me what the how the FedEx logo uses a negative space. Here are two pairs, what's positive and what's negative. So the pairs are positive and the area around them are negative. And then the next image is the Statue of Liberty, and she's negative, and the positive space would be the sky. Or if you're focusing on her, she would be positive and the space would be negative. It just depends on how you look at it. Here we have a little guy. I don't really know what he is. I probably don't want to see him in real life, but he is kind of cute. And that's positive and negative. Then you've got the leaves floating in the water. So the area around the leaves would be negative. Your leaves would be the positive space area. And that just creates a beautiful, simple image. And you could draw the negative space and create the leaves. And now we have a little girl that's positive. On a white background, I would be the negative. And this is a cool image. You've got tennis shoes that are empty, and then you've got a shadow. I don't know how they did that, but your shoes are positive, but I guess everything else is kind of negative, unless you call the man standing there, his silhouette, his shadow, that could possibly be positive, but it's really negative. But it's just cool. Our next image is some jumping dogs. So you've got these wonderful, look at those shapes in between. Look how cool your negative shapes, your negative spaces are. You could draw that by drawing your negatives. This is an example of perspective, which we will study a little bit, but you can see how it gets smaller the further it goes back. It's just a way to keep space accurate in your drawings. So this next piece I really started to assign you, but I changed my mind, and you're going to do a giraffe instead of this, but the thought is that you draw this stool and this chair by drawing just the negative areas. So you would draw all the little rectangles and triangles, and when you're finished, your stool and your chair will automatically appear, and then you darken your negative areas to make it stand out more. It's kind of difficult for our minds to work like that because we want to draw the subject. The rest of these are some cool drawings of flowers in vases. I thought about having you guys do that, but I decided we would not do it. But you just draw around, you draw the negative areas and leave the positive areas white. This is another skeleton of a bird, I guess, is what it looks like. It looks kind of scary to me, but here's some more just examples of positive and negative florals. So it does help you improve your contour lines, and it helps you understand how to get a better composition by putting those positive and negative spaces together. So, and this one is super cool. In this assignment, which we may do it later, but we're not going to do it now, but you just do a watercolor wash and do your background, and then you just come in with black and do your negative spaces in black, and then you're left with a really cool painting. So let's go back into our Google Classroom again and look at what's next. guess, just give me a second. Okay, so this is your assignment for this week. There's a handout at this teacher's desk, and so ask your teacher for this. You are going to draw this giraffe by drawing the area around him. I do not want you to draw the giraffe. I want you to break this into like 4 pieces, so you see 4 quarters there, and then you're going to draw the negative space and those shapes that the negative space creates. Use those those lines as a scale to keep you accurate. And then I want you to use any color that you want and color the negative space. So you'll leave the negative space will be a dark color, or blue, red, black, whatever color you want to make it, and leave the giraffe without that. And then if you want to, I would love to see you come in and draw a giraffe, give a little shading here and there and some detail into the giraffe, but leave that negative space all one color in the background. Do it on the paper. Be sure to take a picture and turn it into the assignment so that I can grade it. Now we're just, this is back to our sketch, but we're just going to go right on into the next assignment. Hold on, guys, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get it all up here. So I'm going to just kind of give you a quick example of how I want you to do this. I want you to be sure that you're focusing on negative and not your positive space. It's just to kind of train your mind to work with that. So I'm just going to draw a real rough, quick sketch. Yours will be better than mine because you'll have more time and an eraser. But you could just kind of watch this proceed here. You see I'm coming up and drawing that area between the giraffe's legs first. And then I'll come up and catch the outer shapes of that bottom. And be sure to kind of look at where things are centered, where things are falling into those lines that will help you keep everything where it's supposed to be. Again, just draw the negatives. Don't try to draw the positive. Try to draw the negative. And see that neck is going to come. See, just you kind of look at where it's falling out by the center and try to make yours do that too. Those grid lines will help you keep it your proportions more correct. That next quarter just has a little bit of positive, and almost all of that is negative. And then we're coming down and catching the tail, and then just trying to draw that negative space, how it falls out there. See, we drew that shape between the legs, and then we'll draw that shape between the front legs and the back legs. And there is your giraffe. So you see, that's not too hard to do. Like I said, be sure and to color your negative space any color you want. You can use a marker, a crayon, you can use a colored pencil. And then I would love to see you put some detail into that giraffe. Look, you can look up giraffes and see what they do. They have some a real unique pattern on them. So knock yourself out and make it interesting. So I hope this makes sense, that you're to draw what's underneath and behind, not the actual subject. And by doing that, your subject is going to just magically appear. This really will help you create more accurate drawings. Now, your next assignment is your partner profile vase sketch, and we we looked at those vases with the faces in between. So you need to pick a partner, and this paper that you're going to draw it on, your teacher should have, and you will draw your partner's profile twice. So you'll draw it on one side, and then you'll make them turn around, and you'll draw it on the other side. And by doing that, you're going to create that vase in the middle. Okay. Everybody pick one partner. If we end up with one extra person, you can team up with 3. It'll be fine. But I just wanted to bring up the vase drawing so you can see what I'm talking about, and that's what you'll do. And then you will color the background again with that too. I think I'm looking for a vase picture here, so maybe it'll get there in just a second. Yeah, I'm pulling up one of those pictures. I didn't have time to edit this, but I'll try to do a better job on the next video. Okay, here we go. So you can see here the profile. So make your friend turn sideways. You draw one side, turn them the other way, draw the other side, and create that vase image, in the middle. Be sure to write your name and your partner's name. Then when you get finished, you will pose and your partner will draw you. Everybody has to draw someone. Okay? Color your negative any color you want, and be sure to take a picture and turn it into the assignment when you're finished. Otherwise, I can't grade it. So don't forget to do that. These are due by Friday. I have another assignment that I may give you if it depends on how we're progressing. If you have any questions about any of this work or positive and negative space, you can ask your question in the classroom stream or in the assignment, or you can send me an email and I will answer you. Okay, so that's it. That's your assignments for this week. Do your best. Please be good. Do not act up. Do not sit around and don't work. We're going to start the new year out by getting our work done on time and getting it turned in. I expect you to act appropriately with your with a sub. I do not want to hear any stories about anybody acting up, but I know you're all good and you'll all do a good job for me. I miss you. I love you. I hope you had a great Christmas and a good holiday, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.